When his billionaire boss was discovered crying alone. You'll never believe what followed. The afternoon light streamed through the grand office windows, illuminating the mountains of paperwork piled high on the mahogany desk. But amidst the sprawling chaos, there was one thing no one ever expected to see: Jonathan Steele, the notoriously unflappable CEO, sobbing like a child. The walls of Steele Enterprises were built to weather storms, but this was something different. The gentle sound of his breath hitching in his throat bounced off the modern art pieces and the luxurious leather chairs, amplifying the shocking vulnerability in the room. Whispers spread through the office like wildfire, igniting a fever of disbelief and concern. What could make a man like him break? They asked, eyes wide and glued to their screens as they imagined getting a glimpse of the reality hiding behind the curtain of wealth. Just then, his assistant Sarah, a chipper soul known for her efficiency, crept in, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. But this wasn't the usual bustling atmosphere. She froze in the doorway, her heart racing with a cocktail of dread and concern. Jonathan's expression shifted, panic washed over her face like ice-cold water, and a knot formed in her stomach. What was he hiding? The tears streamed down his cheeks, marking the pristine skin of a man who had everything yet was losing it all. This sharp twist of fate could unravel everything they'd worked for. With each passing second, tension escalated. Employees exchanged nervous glances, the air thick with uncertainty. Some turned their desks to face the scene, others gathered in small, tense groups, murmuring theories. What if the board found out? Or worse, what if the media caught wind? The ruthless tabloids would have a field day with this scandal, twisting everything until it resembled a horror show. But nothing compared to the mystery behind Jonathan's emotional spiral. A whisper echoed through the ranks, there's a strange package that arrived for him this morning. No one knows what's inside. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Sarah edged closer, her heart pounding. The door clicked softly upon closing, shutting out the light and plunging them into an eerie semi-darkness. She placed a hand on Jonathan's shoulder, feeling the tension ripple beneath her fingers. Boss, what is going on? You can talk to me. His gaze was hollow, shimmering with unshed sorrow and a deep-rooted fear that sent shivers down her spine. I can't, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Outside, the world continued to whirl, unaware that within those walls, a battle raged that could alter the fabric of their very existence. As Jonathan's hands trembled, he hesitated. Was the package a warning? An omen? And what was the consequence of ignoring it? The quiet grew thick, anticipation drumming in the silence between them. A chime of a phone broke the moment, startling them both, but no one dared to check. What if it was about him? What if it changed everything? Suddenly, Jonathan's expression hardened. They're coming for me, he whispered, his eyes wild with fear. The air was electric, the walls almost closing in as Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Every heartbeat echoed with the same question: what was in that package, and who was behind this? Sarah felt a chill creep down her spine. Jonathan's words hung heavy in the air, soaking into her like a sudden downpour. She couldn't fathom what kind of threat loomed over him, but the fear in his eyes told her that whatever it was real and imminent. Who is coming for you? She asked, her voice trembling slightly, searching for some flicker of hope in the darkness swallowing him whole. Jonathan's fingers raked through his hair, the movement frantic and desperate. I thought it was over, I thought I could control it all, he murmured, his voice cracking in agony. But the package, it has evidence that could destroy me and everything I've built. Evidence? Of what? Sarah pushed, her own heart racing as a million thoughts collided in her mind. And why now? Who would just get that package? Jonathan interrupted, his voice suddenly steely. I need to know what's in it before it's too late. Fear morphed into something sharper in his tone, an urgent command that left no room for doubt. With a nod, Sarah peeled away, her feet moving almost of their own accord. As she stepped into the hallway, the whispers among the employees crescendoed, a tide of curious faces blending together in a mosaic of concern and confusion. What's happening in there? They murmured. He's always so composed, this doesn't make sense. She pushed through the chattering crowd, each step feeling heavier than the last. The package was waiting in his office, an interloper in the mix, a suspicious bundle wrapped in brown paper and string. What could be inside? Her hands trembled as she retrieved it from the designated space, the weight of it a silent promise of dread. Returning to the sanctuary of the office, she found Jonathan standing near the window, his back rigid. The glow of the setting sun cast long shadows across his worn features, illuminating the turmoil that roiled just beneath the surface. I brought it, she breathed, placing it gently on the desk. Open it, he demanded, a mixture of anticipation and terror twisting his expression. With cautious hands, she began to unwrap it. Each layer felt like unwinding a tightly coiled spring, the tension building in the atmosphere. The sound of crinkling paper echoed in the otherwise quiet office, punctuated only by Jonathan's uneven breaths. At last, the wrapping fell away to reveal a sleek black box. A cold wave washed over her as she noticed a small electronic device nestled within. It was connected to a screen displaying a single video file, the words confidential flashing ominously across it. Her fingers hesitated above the play button. What's this, Jonathan? But as she looked to him for answers, she found his face pale and his jaw clenched tight, an inner battle waging within him. It's everything, he finally whispered, fear etching deep lines on his forehead. It's everything I tried to keep hidden. A heavy silence settled, thickening the air. Questions raced through Sarah's mind, mingling with a sense of dread. The moment felt monumental, a tipping point that could shatter their world. Are you ready to see? Jonathan asked, his eyes pleading yet defiant. Before she could respond, a knock on the door shattered their fragile bubble. The sound echoed through the office, freezing Sarah in place. She exchanged a glance with Jonathan, his fear was palpable, a tangible force that prickled the back of her neck. Who could that be? She whispered, anxiety pooling in her stomach. Jonathan's face hardened into a mask of resolve. Whoever it is, they're part of this. And it's time to find out just how deep this rabbit hole goes. The knocking came again, louder this time, begging for entry. With her heart racing, Sarah reached for the door, trepidation flooding every inch of her being. What awaited them beyond it? As she turned the handle, a chilling thought crossed her mind, were they about to uncover their greatest fear or seal their fate once and for all? The door swung open. The door creaked open, revealing a figure shrouded in shadows, framed by the dim light of the hallway. Sarah's breath hitched as she took in the unkempt hair and the smudged features of the intruder, her heart racing with both recognition and a fresh wave of dread. It was Gary, Jonathan's right-hand man, but this time, he looked disheveled. Gary? Jonathan's voice was a mix of confusion and alarm. What are you doing here? Jonathan, we don't have time, Gary blurted out, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His eyes darted between the box on the desk and Jonathan's tense posture. They're coming for you. We have to leave. Now. Who? Sarah demanded, her patience thinning. The enormity of the situation pressed down on her, squeezing the air from her lungs. What's happening? They know about the package, Gary replied, swallowing hard. I overheard something this morning, something they weren't supposed to be talking about. Your privacy is compromised. What do you mean? Who knows? Jonathan's sharp tone interrupted Gary's rush. I can handle this. I'm not running. No, you don't understand, this is bigger than you or me. They know what you did, who you really are, and they're not playing games. Gary's eyes were wild with urgency, sweat glistening on his brow. Sarah felt a chill sweep through her. Could the secrets hidden in that black box truly have such far-reaching consequences? Her thoughts spiraled. Had Jonathan's past tracked him down like a bloodhound, refusing to let him move on? Abruptly, there was another knock on the door, this time more aggressive, rattling the hinges. A voice, deep and commanding, called out from the other side. "Jonathan! We know you're in there. Open the door. Stay quiet." Jonathan hissed, his eyes locked on Gary, who had grown pale. "Can you buy us some time? Keep them out." I'll try," Gary stammered, backing away toward the door. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the knob. "But you need to make a decision now, Jonathan. Are you in? Or out? What are you talking about?" Jonathan shot back, frustration twisting his features. "The evidence, if it gets out, it could ruin you. But if you leave now, we can probably hide and regroup. You need to think of Sarah. I'm not leaving her behind." Jonathan's voice rose, reverberating off the walls, barely masking the desperation that seethed within him. The door rattled again, more insistent. "Then open the door." It was the voice again, laced with anger. "You can't hide forever." The ticking clock of their fate weighed heavily. Sarah grasped Jonathan's arm, desperate for a sign that they could face this together. "Please, don't let them take you. Whatever it is, we can figure it out. I'll help." Jonathan's gaze softened for just a moment. "I never wanted you in this world," he whispered. "But now it's too late. I have to protect you." With a surge of adrenaline, he made a decision. He turned to the black box and pointed to the screen. "Play it. We might need it as leverage." "Are you serious? Right now?" Sarah's heart raced as she moved towards the device, uncertainty gripping her. "Do it. We have to know what we're up against." The door groaned under another barrage of forceful knocks. The urgency sent sparks through the air, electrifying their fear. As she pressed the play button, the room filled with static, the video flickering to life. A distorted image appeared, and shaky breaths escaped Sarah. "Whatever this is, it could either save us or seal our fate," Jonathan murmured. The tension crackled like electricity between them, as a familiar face appeared on the screen, one that they both hoped never to see again. "Welcome back," the voice oozed with mockery, every syllable heavy with implications. "And no," Sarah stuttered, her stomach dropping. Jonathan's expression transformed into a mix of anger and horror, his pulse racing. "We need to get out of here." But as the video continued playing, revealing truths that could shift their entire reality, Sarah wondered if they were about to uncover the darkest corners of Jonathan's past or plunge deeper into a nightmare that had only just begun to unravel. Time was running out, and their next move could change everything. What horrifying truth awaited them on the other side of that screen as the figure in the video flashed a menacing grin? The figure on the screen seemed to transform, the initial digital distortion fading into clarity. It was Avery, Jonathan's former mentor, a man whose name was whispered in reverent tones in the corporate world. He had been a father figure, a guiding light. But now, with that mocking grin plastered across his face, he felt like a harbinger of doom. "Look who it is," he drawled, his eyes narrowing, reflecting nothing but malice. "Jonathan, you were never meant to escape your past. And trust me, it's coming to collect its due." Sarah clenched her fists, dread washing over her like cold water. Jonathan's face paled, each word from Avery carrying the weight of 1,000 accusations. He had become a specter from Jonathan's buried history, eager to drag him back into a world he had fought so hard to leave behind. "Jonathan, what do you know about this?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as she glanced at him, searching for reassurance amid the rising tide of panic. "I don't know," Jonathan hissed, his eyes glued to the screen, his expression haunted. This can't be happening. He wouldn't. Just the sound of the door splintering interrupted him, the frame cracking under the persistent, relentless force. Jonathan moved to shield Sarah, his body instinctively placing her behind him. "Gary!" he called out, urgency threading through his voice. "I'm trying!" Gary exclaimed, visibly panicking as he pressed against the door to hold it shut. "Stop stalling, Jonathan!" Avery's voice boomed from the screen, a twisted smile framing his lips. "You left the game, but the game didn't forget you. You think you can erase your past? Think again." Fear clawed at Sarah's insides. What secrets lay buried in Jonathan's past? What lengths would Avery go to reclaim control over a life he once dominated? "Open this door." The voice echoed again, a distant but oppressive reminder of their imminent danger. More fists slammed against the wood, sending vibrating shocks that pulsed through Sarah's spine. "Jonathan, we can't just stand here," she pleaded. "We have to move. We can't let them in." The video continued to play, Avery leaning closer to the camera as if trying to penetrate the space between them. "I hope you're ready for the consequences of your little escape. You think you know the truth. There are layers you never imagined. And I promise, they'll come to light soon enough." Suddenly, the sound of Gary's shoes scuffed against the floor as he leaned into the door with all his weight. "I can't hold them much longer. Jonathan," Sarah urged, her voice rising. "We have to make a choice. Are we going to fight or run?" Jonathan's expression tightened, his past muscles of loyalty and betrayal warring inside him. He had loved Avery, trusted him until that trust shattered. But now, every second lost felt like a noose tightening around their collective necks. What if this is a trap? Jonathan voiced, doubt creeping into his mind. What if he's manipulating us to expose everything? A scream echoed from the hallway, a primal noise that sent chills down Sarah's spine. The sound sliced through the lingering tension, a jagged edge of reality. "Now!" Jonathan yelled, lunging for the black box, his hands trembling as he scrambled to press the pause button. "No!" The command from the screen echoed with a cold finality. "You can't stop this." But as the screen went dark, all three of them stood frozen, the darkness of unknown consequences stretching ahead like a black void. Footsteps thundered outside. Time was no longer on their side. Then, in a terrifying twist, a chilling realization gripped Jonathan's heart. What if the intruders were connected to Avery? What if they were all part of a cat-and-mouse game orchestrated by the very man he once admired? "We need to go." Sarah's voice broke through the mental fog, urgency pumping through her. The door splintered one last time. As Gary pushed it shut, Jonathan's eyes met Sarah's, a silent vow passing between them. They had to survive this, but where would that surviving lead them? Would they be stepping into freedom or into the depths of a darker past? As the door creaked, Jonathan gripped Sarah's hand tightly, ready to face whatever awaited them. A question hung heavy in the air: what would they uncover about themselves and each other when the truth finally clawed its way out? Breathless silence engulfed the room as Jonathan's grip tightened around Sarah's hand. The door shuddered again, the sound echoing thickly in the air. Fear twisted Jonathan's gut tighter with every thud of the intruders outside. Who were they? What did Avery have planned? He couldn't let his past put them in danger. He wouldn't. "Gary," Jonathan shouted, "can you hold that door? We need to find another way out." "I'm trying, but it won't hold for long." Gary's voice was strained, desperation bleeding through. The pounding grew more frantic, like a heartbeat racing into chaos. Each blow against the door felt like a countdown, and Jonathan's mind scrambled for solutions. They needed to escape fast. He turned to the window. It was on the second floor, but anything was better than letting Avery's puppets in. "Sarah." Jonathan lifted his chin, looking at her. "Can you climb? We can jump down into the alley." I think so." Her voice quivered, but there was fire in her eyes. Then let's move. He barely finished the sentence when a deafening crack forced him to turn back to the door. A splintering noise broke through Jonathan's determination, and Gary yelped, stumbling back. The door burst open, flying off its hinges, a swirl of chaos pouring into the room. Jonathan pushed Sarah behind him and took a step forward, ready to face whatever nightmare awaited. His head spun as a figure cloaked in darkness rushed forward, their intention clear. But just as they lunged, Jonathan's instincts kicked in. He barreled toward the intruder, adrenaline surging. The collision sent both of them tumbling to the ground in a flurry of limbs and muffled shouts. "Get off me!" he hissed, wrestling with the figure, trying to grab hold of anything that could help him gain the upper hand, but the intruder was relentless, twisting and turning like a weasel caught in a trap. Jonathan caught a glimpse of their face, but it was obscured by shadows. Panic simmered beneath his skin as he struggled. Had Avery sent these attackers? Was anyone else coming for them? "Jonathan!" Sarah shouted, her voice tearing through the fog of fear surrounding him. "Help me!" He turned to see another figure looming over her, the threat sending a shockwave of rage through him. With a surge of strength, Jonathan shoved the intruder off and launched himself toward Sarah. But he wasn't fast enough. The next moments felt like they were stretched out in slow motion. A loud thud echoed as the intruder grasped Sarah, her terrified face etched in his mind. "Let her go." Jonathan's voice thundered as he charged forward again, fists clenched. This time, he didn't hesitate. He tackled the attacker, fear and fury combining into a force no one could withstand. With every ounce of strength he had, he took them down. Jonathan's fists connected with flesh, adrenaline blurring the lines between control and aggression. The figure released Sarah, and she staggered back, wide-eyed and terrified. "Run!" Jonathan shouted, a fierce urgency pushing through his veins. But Sarah shook her head, determination filling her voice. "I'm not leaving you. Damn it. We need to go now, together." He caught his breath, his heart racing as the door creaked again, a reminder of their fragile situation that in the chaos, Jonathan felt a surge of heat swelling in the room, something darker than the shock they had just faced. He needed to think, rallying the scattered pieces of his focus. He glanced around, noticing a fire escape ladder up against the building wall. "Over there. We can escape." Jonathan pointed, driving the urgency home. They dashed toward the ladder. Each step felt like they were racing against time, weaving through chaos as the intruders regrouped, howls of anger rising around them. Just as they reached the ladder, a chilling laugh echoed in the air, cold and familiar. Avery's voice. "Did you honestly think you could escape?" Jonathan froze, dread seeping into his bones. What did Avery have in store for them? What if every move they made played right into his hands? As the door rattled behind them, all Jonathan could feel was that tightening noose of uncertainty. Together, they scrambled up the ladder, but the rush was mixed with fear. How high would they have to climb to truly escape the clutches of the past, and what terrifying truths awaited them at the top? Reaching the top of the ladder, Jonathan pulled Sarah up with a force born from desperation. They stumbled onto the rooftop, breathless and wide-eyed. The frigid night air offered no comfort, it only deepened Jonathan's unease. The shadows cast by the city's skyline felt like watchful eyes, and the distant hum of sirens served as a haunting reminder that they were not safe yet. "Where do we go now?" Sarah's lips trembled, the fear of their height evident in her trembling voice. Jonathan scanned their surroundings, searching for possibilities in the dark. Directly ahead, another building loomed, its rooftop slightly lower and illuminated by a lone flickering bulb. "We can jump to that roof." "Are you crazy?" Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief. "That's insane." "It's that or we go back down to the chaos," he replied, urgency slicing through him. "Trust me, we can make it." Before she could protest further, he took a few steps back, gauging the distance, adrenaline pouring through him like molten lava. With a quick nod he gave her, he sprinted forward. The world around him blurred, his heart pounding so loudly he could barely hear himself think. He leaped. Air rushed past him, and for a moment, despair faded. His feet met the other rooftop with a hard thud, a jolt shooting through his joints as he barely kept his balance. I made it. He turned back, a wave of relief crashing over him. Jonathan! Sarah screamed from behind him. A shiver of terror shot down his spine as he spun to see her poised at the edge, hesitation churning in her eyes. Jump! Now! She hesitated again, fear locked in her features. I can't. What if I fall? Trust me. I want to let you fall. He extended his hands as encouragement, looking straight into her eyes, pleading. You can do this. With a deep breath, her determination surged. She ran, the sound of her feet barely muffled by the concrete beneath them. Jonathan's heart raced as she pushed forward, and just as she prepared to leap, a shout echoed from below. There they are. The surprise caused Jonathan to turn, panic flooding his veins as chaos ensued. A group of shadowy figures emerged from the stairwell hatch below them, led by the unmistakable silhouette of Avery himself. Jonathan could almost feel the pressure of his malevolence squeezing the air around them. Sarah! Now! Jonathan yelled again, his arm reaching toward her before she had a moment to think. With a feral yell, she jumped. Fear and determination fueled her, but Jonathan's heart sank the moment he saw her miscalculation. She stumbled mid-air, her foot brushing the edge of the building as she landed awkwardly. Sarah! He dove toward her, catching her before her body could hit the concrete ground. The momentum sent them crashing against the rooftop, pain radiated through Jonathan's legs, but he ignored it. He could only focus on her, her breathy gasps beside him showing the panic she felt and that he felt too. He felt the urgency of every heartbeat. They had to keep moving. Avery's quiet laughter floated up from below, unsettling and chilling. There's nowhere left to run, my little birds. Jonathan's insides twisted at the authority in his voice. He pushed Sarah off him and onto her feet, scanning the area for an escape. The other rooftop offered a narrow edge leading to the adjoining building. Let us go. He indicated, taking her hand again. As they sprinted toward the next edge, Jonathan's mind raced. They were skirting the precipice of capture, every step bringing them closer to the abyss of their fate, and Avery's certainty was starting to take root in Jonathan's mind. Avery didn't just want Jonathan and Sarah, he wanted them to suffer, to feel hopeless. As they approached the edge, a metallic shiver crept through Jonathan's arms. He glanced back to see shadows swarming up the ladder, the figures growing clearer against the night sky. They were too close. Jump! Jonathan shouted, adrenaline pulsing through him. But the moment they took flight, uncertainty and dread enveloped them. They just traded one danger for another, but would this leap bring them a chance of freedom or plunge them deeper into Avery's game? As they flew toward the unknown, both Jonathan and Sarah gasped. What lay ahead would test everything they thought they knew. Would they land safe, or would this be their last desperate bid for survival? Time slowed as they soared through the darkness, every heartbeat echoing in Jonathan's ears. Arms flailing, they landed on the next roof, the impact jolting through them like a surge of electricity. Jonathan barely registered the pain in his legs as he rolled to break the fall, pulling Sarah alongside him. Are you okay? He gasped, scrambling to his feet even as he kept an eye out for their pursuers. I think so. Sarah's voice wavered, shaky, but there was a spark of determination in her eyes. What now? Move! Jonathan shouted, scanning the roof for clues of their next escape route. The dim light flickered ominously above them, revealing a small access door. We need to get inside, now. They dashed toward the door, adrenaline driving them. The sounds of heavy footsteps on the ladder reverberated into the night, interrupting the intense silence that surrounded them. Jonathan's breath quickened, feeling like blades were scraping at his throat. Behind him, Avery's men were relentless, a pack of wolves hungry for their prey, with frantic hands, Jonathan yanked the door open and ushered Sarah inside. The darkness swallowed them, cloaking their panic. He shoved the door shut, the metal groaning against the frame. A pocket of stillness embraced them, but Jonathan knew this was only temporary. "Which way?" Sarah asked, trembling now, and Jonathan could feel his chest tighten with urgency. "Up. We need to find the roof access again," he whispered, already rushing down the dim hallway. Shadows danced along the walls, adding to the suffocating atmosphere. They reached the stairwell, Jonathan leading the way, each step echoing ominously. He could still hear the faint sound of Avery's voice taunting them from the rooftop below. "You can run, but think about the life you've chosen, Jonathan." Jonathan's heart dropped at the statement. Avery's words were poison, twisting in his mind. Why was Avery so hell-bent on them? Memories of past meetings flashed through his head. Avery's charming smiles didn't seem so charming anymore. It was all manipulation. "Jonathan." Sarah's voice jolted him back to reality. He reached the top of the stairs, and without hesitating, he swung the door open. The roof above was exposed, but terror gripped him. Would they have enough time? He dashed across the rooftop toward the other side where another shaft could lead them down and into the alley. "Hold on." He pulled Sarah with him, glancing back only once to see a dark figure emerging from the glow of lights below, a shadow writhing in rage. Avery. Jonathan's stomach twisted. "This way." He pointed toward a flickering neon sign that barely illuminated the alley down below. It was a longer drop, but their only hope lay there. They skidded to the edge, surveying the cavernous height separating them from freedom. The drop wasn't without risk, but standing still meant death. "Do you think we can make that?" Sarah's voice quivered. Jonathan could see the doubt gnawing at her. "Trust me," he said, trying to muster confidence. "We don't have a choice." "On 3? Okay, 3, 2, 1. They leaped, descending through the air together. The ground raced up toward them, and in the split second of free fall, dread washed over Jonathan. But there was no time to second-guess. They hit the ground with a thud, rolling as they landed hard on the gritty pavement. Pain shot through Jonathan's wrist, but he pushed the agony aside, grabbing Sarah's hand. They scrambled to their feet, breathless and disoriented, eyes darting for an escape. "There! Into the alley!" he shouted, pulling Sarah past the narrow opening between two buildings. They ducked just as a shot rang out, the sound ricocheting around them like thunder. "We've got to keep moving," Jonathan urged, desperation fueling his strides. But in the confusion, a chilling thought crept into his mind: what if they were already too late? Just then, a figure emerged, and it wasn't Avery. It was even more unexpected. Someone from Jonathan's past, someone he thought he'd never see again, standing in the shadows. Could this person be an ally or a betrayal waiting to happen? Jonathan's heart raced once more, caught between fear and familiarity. The shadow stepped forward, revealing a familiar face illuminated by the dim light of the flickering neon sign. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat, disbelief washing over him. It was Claire, his former assistant, the one who had left without explanation. The last person he expected to see in a moment like this. "Claire!" Jonathan exclaimed, his voice a mix of shock and relief. "What are you doing here?" She looked different, haunted even. Her eyes, usually bright and sharp, now carried a weight that made Jonathan's heart ache. I didn't think I would see you again like this," she said, glancing over her shoulder nervously, as if she expected trouble at any moment. "Neither did I," he admitted, pulling Sarah closer to him. Fear gnawed at his insides. "But we're being chased. Are you with Avery?" A cold bitterness flashed in her eyes. "No. I'm not. I came here to get away from him. I saw what he was capable of last time just a few hours ago. I overheard him plotting. I needed to warn you both." "Warn us? What do you mean?" Sarah interjected, her voice laced with urgency. Avery's after you because of a deal, something you don't know about. He's convinced you have something he needs. It's bigger than you realize, Claire explained, glancing down the alley as if expecting a squad of Avery's men to appear at any moment. Jonathan's head spun. What do you mean? What does he want from us? He feels betrayed by you, Claire went on, her voice trembling slightly. He thinks you've taken something from him, something that could ruin him. You have to trust me, I can help you get out of this. Jonathan felt a surge of emotions wrestling within him, anger, confusion, but there was also a kernel of hope. How do we know we can trust you? He shot back, feeling a protective instinct for Sarah. You vanished without a word. Claire's face hardened. I had my reasons. I had to protect myself, Jonathan. This is bigger than us, and if we don't move quickly, we won't have time for this. Before he could respond, another gunshot split the night air, a close call that sent adrenaline rushing through his veins. Go. Claire urged, her demeanor shifting from defensive to commanding. We have to head deeper into the city, he won't look for you there. Jonathan nodded, fear mingling with the rush of resolve. He couldn't let Sarah fall into Avery's hands. They sprinted after Claire, who led them through a series of twisting alleyways, adrenaline driving their every step. The city was alive, cars honking, faint music echoing from bars, unaware of the danger lurking just within the shadows. As they turned a corner, Claire skidded to a halt, pressing her back against the cold brick wall. We need to find a hiding place, somewhere they wouldn't think to look, she panted, her forehead glistening with sweat, but before they could catch their breath, Jonathan noticed a group of men in dark suits emerging from the same side street, eyes scanning for them with an intensity that sent him flaring with panic. Avery's men. Quick. In here. Jonathan whispered, shoving Sarah and Claire toward a narrow door that opened into a dimly lit basement. They ducked inside just as the figures reached the alley, their voices low and threatening. Where did they go? One of the men growled, his tone filled with malice. As they pressed against the wall in silence, Jonathan's heart hammered in his chest. Would the darkness protect them? Or were they stepping deeper into a trap? The reality of their situation clawed at him, each breath a reminder of their vulnerability. One wrong move could lead them straight into Avery's hands. He turned to Claire, ready to demand answers, but the worry etched on her face silenced him. There were too many pieces missing from this puzzle, and the more he thought about it, the more it loomed over him. Who truly was the hunter, and who was the prey? What was Avery willing to do to reclaim what he believed Jonathan had stolen? The anticipation twisted in Jonathan's gut as they huddled in the shadows, waiting and wondering. The truth was about to surface, and they could be caught in its tide. Could Claire be trusted? Or was she the key to an even darker plot unfolding around them? The basement was damp and packed with the smell of mold. Jonathan squinted into the murky shadows, trying to make sense of their predicament. Claire's eyes darted around, scanning for exits, her brow knitted with worry. We have to be quiet, she hissed, her voice barely above a whisper. They're close. I saw them earlier in the street. Jonathan felt a shiver run down his spine. The idea of being mere feet away from Avery's men made his skin creep. He dropped his gaze to Sarah, whose trembling hands were pale against her dark sweater. It's going to be all right, he reassured her, though doubt gnawed at his gut. Do you really believe that? Sarah whispered back, her voice shaky. She was young, but his fears were now her fears too. The weight of protecting her felt heavier than ever. Listen, Claire interrupted, her eyes locked on the door. Avery knows you're here. He has eyes everywhere. We can't stay here long. Then what do we do? Jonathan snapped, the frustration spilling over. You brought us into this mess. If you're not working for him, why were you so keen to find us? Claire's eyes narrowed, her expression a mix of anger and desperation. Because I want to help you. You can't see it right now, but if we don't act, we will all end up in the ground. Avery has men that don't just hunt for sport, they kill without a second thought. Jonathan clenched his fists, every instinct urging him to scramble out of here. But he also felt the instinct to hear her out, to understand. "What do you know?" he pressed, lowering his voice. "About the deal. What is so important that it has him stalking us?" Claire inhaled deeply, as if bracing herself. "I found out about a shipment. Something sensitive. I overheard Avery talking about it with someone higher up. He believes you're involved somehow," she said, glancing again at the door as if it might burst open at any moment. "Sensitive how? Is it drugs?" Sarah asked, her wide eyes reflecting a mix of fear and curiosity. "No. It's not that simple," Claire replied, urgency creeping into her tone. "It's information that could destroy his empire. Enough to ruin his reputation, and if he thinks you have a piece of it, he will not stop until he gets it back." Jonathan felt a tightening in his chest. Could he be linked to something that powerful? The web of lies and betrayal tangled in his mind, tightening around him like a noose. "So what is the plan? We just sit here and wait for them to find us?" "Not if you're willing to trust me," Claire countered, snapping her fingers in front of his face to break the tension. "We need to make a run for it, but I need to know you'll stick together. If they catch one of us, we're all dead." A loud bang echoed from above, a slamming door that rattled the walls like thunder. Jonathan suppressed a flinch, his heart in his throat. They were getting too close. He could hear muffled voices now, footsteps getting closer, his mind raced. "Where do we go? How do you expect us to escape if you're just leading us into the lioness den?" "Into the subway," Claire replied, her eyes lighting up with a spark of hope. "If we can get to the platform without being seen, we can take the train out of here. They want to look for us underground." The urgency of the moment pushed Jonathan into motion. He nodded sharply. "Okay. We move. Now." As they crept towards the door, the shadows grew heavier, the voices above louder. Jonathan threw open the door just enough to slip through, leading the way for Sarah and Claire. The narrow passageway was like a tight fist, closing around them as they made their way towards the exit, but the men were closer than they realized. He could hear the scrape of shoes against concrete, the low chuckle of a voice he recognized all too well. Avery's footsteps were unmistakable, and they sounded dangerously close. "Time to run." Jonathan hissed. The three of them burst back into the alley, the cool air hitting their faces like a slap. Jonathan's heart raced as he glanced back to see the men spill out of the building, scanning the street. "Go! Go!" he shouted, pulling Sarah with him as they sprinted. Down the alley, Claire right behind. Just then, Sarah tripped, stumbling forward. Jonathan turned just in time to plunge his hands under her arms, pulling her back up before she fell. But the second glance cost him. A piercing yell came from behind them, and the sound of footsteps thundered in pursuit. Time slowed, fear creeping under his skin. They dashed into the street, a blur of movement and adrenaline, but would it be enough? A car screeched to a stop, blocking their path, a dark SUV with tinted windows. Jonathan's breath caught again, confusion gnawing at him. Who was this? Friend or foe? And then, the door swung open with a creak, revealing a figure illuminated by the harsh streetlight. "Get in!" A voice barked, and recognition washed over Jonathan. But was this the help they sought, or the beginning of their end? They hesitated, caught in the storm of choices, every second ticking like a countdown to an explosion. Could this be the lifeline they needed? Or yet another trap set by Avery? Time was running out, and so were their chances. "Get in!" The urgency in the voice jolted Jonathan from his thoughts. He saw the glimmer of anxiety in Sarah's eyes, the same fear gnawing at him. But the shadowy figures behind them were closing in fast, their intentions unmistakably malicious. "Trust him, Sarah," Jonathan urged, rushing toward the open door while dragging her along. They had no other choice. With a wild glance back, Jonathan spotted the first glimpse of Avery's men. He felt the weight of dread in his gut as they fanned out, searching every corner. "Move, move, move!" Jonathan shouted, forcing Sarah into the back of the SUV. He dove in beside her just as the sound of gunshots rang out, echoing down the street like death's clock ticking. The driver slammed the door shut as a bullet ricocheted off the metal frame, sending shockwaves through Jonathan's limbs. "Go! Go!" Jonathan gritted through clenched teeth. The vehicle peeled away with a jolt, the city slipping into a blur around them. The driver turned back for a quick moment, a flash of recognition flickering across his features. Jonathan Steele. "It's been a while. David?" Jonathan's mind raced. David, his old college buddy, the one who had promised him security after they graduated. But now, he was an unexpected ally in this fight against Avery. "What are you doing here?" "Long story. I'll fill you in later. First, let us get you two out of sight." David's grip tightened around the wheel as he maneuvered the vehicle through city streets, weaving and dodging traffic to evade potential followers. "What's the plan?" Sarah asked breathlessly, her eyes darting to Jonathan as if he had all the answers. "We need to make it to the safe house," David replied. "Avery has eyes everywhere. You can't stay in the city, it's crawling with his men. And if he thinks you have something that can bring him down, I need to know what he was looking for," Jonathan interjected. His mind was a fog, full of questions. "How do we stop him?" "By finding out what's at stake first." David glanced in the rearview mirror, his voice tightening. "He thinks you have a piece of information that could ruin him. That's why he's hunting you." Another bullet whizzed past, narrowly missing the rear window as they sped through a red light. Jonathan's heart raced. This was not just about him anymore, Sarah was in danger too. "We'll find a way to get you through this," David said, determination flashing in his eyes as he accelerated. "But we need to stay low. Avery is going to pull out all the stops. That will make him desperate, and desperate men make mistakes." They pulled up to a nondescript building in an industrial part of town, hidden behind overgrown trees. Jonathan felt a rush of relief. This felt like safety wrapped in shadows. They exited the SUV and hurried inside. Once inside, Jonathan took a breath. The musty scent of old wood mixed with something akin to hope hung in the air. "What do we do now?" "Now we figure out what you've got," David said, guiding them down a dark hallway into an underground bunker filled with equipment. Posters of maps plastered the walls, with lines crisscrossing like a spider web. "What are all of these?" Sarah asked, staring at the chaotic spread around them. "They're connections, tracking movements, resources, everything we know about Avery," David explained. "We've been searching for evidence that could tie him to something bigger." "Bigger?" Jonathan questioned, confusion blending with fear. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a lifeboat, waiting to be pulled under. "Something illegal," David replied, tapping on the computer screen. "Money laundering, corporate espionage, worse. If we gather enough evidence, we can bring him down once and for all." Jonathan felt that spark of determination reignite, hope blossoming amid the chaos. "How do I fit into this?" "Avery believes you have more information than you think," David said, typing rapidly. "When you left his organization, you took a lot with you." I didn't mean to. I didn't know." Jonathan's voice cracked, panic creeping back in. "What if I don't know what he is talking about?" "Then we figure it out together," David reassured him. The determination behind his words was anchored in trust, and Jonathan felt the weight lift, if even just a little. Footsteps echoed outside the door, and Jonathan's heart dropped, realizing the mild comfort they'd found was heading toward ruin. Avery's men were getting closer. "Quick!" David said, pointing toward a small back room. "In there. I'll stall them." "What? You can't go out there alone," Sarah exclaimed, grappling for some semblance of control. "No time to argue. Trust me, get in." David pressed, shoving them through the door and shutting it behind them. Jonathan felt the world spin in that cramped space. They were trapped, and David was out there alone. How are we going to get out of this? We'll find a way, I promise. Sarah insisted, her voice shaky yet firm. But as they stood in the silence of that small room, Jonathan felt fear creep in again. They could be caught at any moment by the very man who had haunted him for so long. Listen, Jonathan said, his voice heavy with determination. If we get out of this, I need you to promise me we'll do everything we can to take down Avery. Yes, Sarah whispered. I want to let you fight this alone. The noise outside grew louder, a cacophony of footsteps and frantic urgency. Time was slipping by. Stay close, Jonathan said firmly, taking her hand. They were in this together, and together they would face Avery, whatever the cost. David's voice could be heard beyond the door, arguing with Avery's men. He was buying them time, he was fighting for them. And they would not let that struggle be in vain. Suddenly, the door creaked open, the shadows surged, and they prepared to charge into the fray. Jonathan steeled himself. It was now or never. Let us do this. He exclaimed as they burst out together, ready to face whatever hell awaited them outside, but what they found beyond that door was more than either of them had ever bargained for. Their fight had just begun. The room was silent for a moment, but then the chaos erupted, wild shouts, moving bodies, fear-stricken faces, and Avery's chilling laughter echoing behind them, sealing their fate. This fight wouldn't just change them, it would change everything. And as they charged forward, Jonathan knew they were ready to give it everything they had. But little did they know, the real battle was about to unfold. This is the moment to take action, folks. You need to subscribe to our channel immediately so you don't miss the next pulse-pounding chapter in this story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Time is running out.